Welcome back to the Rotary Sunday Series, and we are very happy to see that this is gaining so much momentum and so much of information that you're seeking. And we will take this opportunity to bring to you the different Rotary heroes and legends as we trace their journey on the episode. Let's get started.
Hello everyone and welcome once again. This time on Rotary Sunday Series, we have a guest who is, why I call him a guest is because this particular project has actually caught the entire Rotary world by storm, and none other than past President Gurmeet Singh Randhawa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Thank you.
So it was a pleasure to have him, and just to give you a little brief, a project that is very, very popularly looked at is Karunashraya, a project in Bangalore, and of course now even going outside this geography area, but more details about this directly from our own Gurmeet Singh Randhawa. So before we get to the project itself, could you share with us something about your Rotary journey?
Well, Sanjay, my Rotary journey funnily started with a cricket match actually. In somewhere 1988, the Rotary Club of Bangalore, Indiranagar, and Rotary Cantonment used to have regular cricket matches. And one of these cricket matches, they needed an umpire. So I was roped in by Silu Jamal to be the umpire. And I met Rotarian Bhaskar there. And then he proposed me to Rotary Indiranagar. So I joined Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar in 1988. Then of course after several directorships, I was the president of Rotary Indiranagar in 93-94. And after that, I had the opportunity to lead the GSE team to Germany in 2006. So it's been a very fulfilling journey because I think Rotary gives an opportunity for us for service, and the impact that one can have on society and on people who need us the most, it can be very telling. So my journey has been very fulfilling from that point of view.
Excellent. So Rotary journey by itself, the opportunity to be able to serve and create impact, I think that is inspiring. Yeah. And I'm glad that you're there and you've been a big force in our project, the Karunashraya. So let's talk a little about that. How did it originate? What are some of the things that really put you to test? And what are some milestones that we achieved?
Yes, Sanjay, in 93-94, when I was the president of Rotary Indiranagar, I was looking at a project which could be a permanent project, something very significant. Fortunately, at that time, Dr. Sima was also on the Indian Cancer Society as a member. And Mr. Kishore Rao, who was the then secretary of the Indian Cancer Society, Bangalore Chapter, were looking for a partner to set up a hospice. Now, hospice was a new word for us. And so when I delved deeper into it and found that hospice meant looking after cancer patients who were advanced stage, who were terminal, and my own tryst with cancer with my mother just about a year before that was really got me interested into this. And therefore we sat down with the Indian Cancer Society, and somewhere in 1994 September, we set up the Bangalore Hospice Trust. The idea was that let this be an independent trust which will have both the Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar and Indian Cancer Society members as members of the trust, and be independent in terms of raising its funds and as in its activity. So that was the beginning of how we started the Bangalore Hospice Trust. Of course, when we started the Bangalore Hospice Trust, the first thing that we did was that we didn't have an office. So the TTK Blood Bank, Lata Jagannathan, who was the managing trustee over there, she offered us a room over there. So we set up a small office in the TTK Rotary Blood Bank, and we started with the home care services. The idea was that if we could sort of start and look at palliative care, look at managing these advanced stage cancer patients in their homes, that might be an easier way for us to start. So we rented an auto rickshaw. We employed a nurse and we employed a counselor who would go to the homes of people who were terminally ill with cancer, and working with their doctors, we started the first home care team. Subsequently, we started looking at land to build a hospice, and after several, meeting with several organizations, we zeroed on a land which is now in Whitefield, where Karunashraya currently is, where there was this organization that was looking after leprosy patients. And they had almost about 20 acres of land. And by the time the leprosy was, mostly cured, so they didn't have the need for so much of land. Fortunately for us, we were able to, meeting with the chief secretary and with some of the other people, we were able to take that 5 acres of land from them, and we got that land leased to Bangalore Hospice Trust. So that, in a way, was the beginning of where Karunashraya is today.
Very interesting, because I like the concept that you shared about the home care that you did in between, like a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And also the thought that palliative care is so much in short supply. The power behind it, based on your own personal experience as well, all coming together. And finally, we got to the land.
Yes.
Thereafter, what's the journey ahead?
Well, at the point of time when we got the land, we had no money at all. So while the firm of Chandavarkar and Thakkar came forward to design the building for us free of cost, we still needed to raise money to build this hospice. And therefore, the trustees, both from Indian Cancer Society and Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar, we started looking for funds. And we were fortunate that we were able to get some funding from some of the other trusts. And we started the construction in 1995, probably late 95, and completed the construction in 1999. Meanwhile, we also applied for the 3H grant of the Rotary Foundation, which is the Health, Hunger, Humanity grant. That was to equip this building. The premise of getting this Health, Hunger, Humanity grant was that we would also educate other people in palliative care, and therefore we started planning also at the same time that when we start the hospice, we will also start training and teaching other people. Palliative care was relatively unheard of when we first started. In fact, a hospice was, people didn't know what a hospice was. So it was a big challenge for us when we took our first patient on 1st of May in 1999, how to attract patients to come to us. It took us quite a while. The journey had, several meetings with the oncologists, with the oncosurgeons, with the general practitioners. We would sort of invite them over. We would go to their place. We would tell them what a hospice is, what palliative care is, how the patients can benefit from being in a hospice. So it took us about at least 3 to 4 years till we really saw a steady stream of patients coming to us. And interestingly, in that period, palliative care also was developing elsewhere in this country. For instance, in Kerala, where palliative care initially started. And also we already had a hospice in Bombay called the Shanti Avedna Ashram, which had started a few years before we did. So we had something that we could sort of go there and learn from and plan our hospice after that. Interestingly, before we opened the hospice, I and the then Secretary Cyrus Unwala, along with Dr. Sima, we visited Singapore, where there was the Asian Pacific Conference on Palliative Care. That gave us an opportunity to meet with a lot of people, international experts on palliative care, and visit some of the hospices in Singapore, which were, considered, the best at that point of time. So that was the learning curve that helped us plan and start the Hospice Karunashraya where it is now.
Amazing, because yes, it was a new area,
Yes.
and yet we had to pick up learnings from different places, and the conference helped as well, so
Yeah.
that's great. And as we got the first stream of patients, and now there's a regular flow, and it's continuing very, very successfully, we did get a little bit of sense of the demand growing.
Yes.
So how did we now then cater to the growing demand?
Well, Sanjay, when we started with 50 beds. And over the last about a decade or 12 years, we have seen a steady growth in number of patients. So in 2015, we added another 24 beds to the hospice. And we, from one home care team, we expanded to 2 more home care teams. So currently we have 3 home care teams, and we have got about 74 beds at Karunashraya. Today the situation is that we at any given time have close to about 60 patients in the hospice, and there are times when there is a waiting period. So palliative care has caught on, and interestingly, about 50 to 60% of our patients come to us by word of mouth, where our past patients' families have spoken about us, and these people have heard about us from there. And rest, of course, come from the hospitals, referrals coming from Kidwai or coming from many of the other hospitals. We also have people who go to these hospitals, social workers, who look for patients who are terminal with cancer, who are being discharged, and then we find out whether they would be happy with our team visiting them at home, or would they prefer to come to the hospice as inpatients. So we have grown in that respect quite a lot. We started when we started, we had hardly about 20 employees. Today, we have about 150 employees. We have got close to about 80 nursing staff. We have got 6 doctors. We have got 6 counselors. We have a psycho-oncologist on board. We have a full research and education department. We have a separate director for education and research. And interestingly, this story was, something that Mr. Subrata Bagchi, who was one of the founders of Mindspace, he had come to us and he was guiding us with our strategic planning, 8-10 years before this. So when he moved to Bhubaneswar as advisor to the Chief Minister, he also sold Mindtree. And of the money that he got of sale, he wanted to do something for cancer in Bhubaneswar. So he was looking for a partner who would set up a hospital and a hospice. So because we were associated with him, his first choice was to come to us for the hospice. So currently we are in the process of completing the construction of a hospice in Bhubaneswar. That's going to be 110 beds. We started taking our first patients in last month. And we have been doing home care services in Bhubaneswar for the last 2.5 years. And because palliative care is relatively better known today, we had a much better reception in terms of engagement with the other hospitals and with getting the patients. So that's another milestone in our journey. That from Bangalore now that we have shifted to Bhubaneswar. And in our last strategic plan, we have also looked at probably looking at 2 other centers. And we found that probably the need is great in Northeast. So we are currently engaged with a couple of organizations, whether we could set up another Karunashraya in somewhere in the Northeast, and looking at other places where there is greater need for palliative care, where incidence of cancer is very high. So that's something that's going on and engaging us at this point of time.
Absolutely wonderful. I think it's a journey that's growing, and I'm sure a lot of people have benefited by it. I'm not surprised that we have got the expanding the geography has already begun. What kind of advice or recommendation would you give to current leaders when they want to conceive projects of this kind? What should they be aware of?
I think each club has its own strength, and I think you need to do that analysis of seeing what kind of strength the club has and what kind of projects that you can take. To my mind, if you want to take on a project such as Karunashraya or a permanent project which is significant, you need few Rotarians to take on the role of being owners. They should take ownership of the project. It's only when you take the ownership of the project and see the project through, then only we will be able to succeed in implementing these projects to the best of the ability. The second thing is, don't be scared about funds. If you are truly well planned, and if you mean well, and you're reaching out to something that the society needs, funding will come. And that has been our experience, that ever since we started Karunashraya, we have never lacked for funds. And one of the things when we were conceiving this project, and when we spoke to our own Rotary leaders within Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar, one of the things I was very confident and where I told them was that we will never depend on funds from Rotary Indiranagar alone. That the trust will be able to manage its funds, and we have done that so far. So my advice would be, don't be afraid of doing a big project, but have people who will take ownership of the project and see it through. Secondly, the support that is needed from the club is very important. You can start a project, but unless the people who take the ownership have the backing of the club and the successive leadership in the club, it's difficult to manage. So that way, I think I have been very lucky. And both my colleague, Dr. Sima, who's been, part and parcel of this journey, that we have had full support from the club and absolute independence to run this project. And I think that's one of the reasons of the success of the project.
Awesome. I think for the current leaders, the mantra is very simple. It's about taking ownership of the project. Don't be scared about funds. As long as you have the right need being met, funds will come. And then finally, garner support from the club, not just for the current year, but for the successive years. I think that's really the essence of our conversation today. Thank you so much. We're really happy that we have you here, and I'm hoping our current leaders will make the most of it.
Thank you, Sanjay. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.